welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to go through a trade review with you guys. So I'm going to go through my week's worth of trades. I did only take 2 trades last week. However, in the month of November, I did struggle with my strategy just because I wasn't getting the plays that I wanted to, and I was getting faked out a lot. So because of that, this past month, I have been very selective with my trades and have been very patient before I take a trade in the market. I have been waiting until 10 a.m. Usually prior to 10 a.m., we're not able to get that many. We don't get proper price action, or we haven't recently, so I did start waiting until 10 a.m. and this past week I only actually took 2 trades. I took a trade with Tesla and I took a trade with SPX. Monday the market was closed, so we did have a 4-day week, and overall volume was extremely low. Whenever we have a shorter week, volume tends to be a lot lower than normal, so you don't get those breakout plays that I usually look for. You don't get the gap fills that I usually look for, so there's not enough volume to actually make the move. So that's one of the biggest reasons why this month I've been extremely patient, and especially the past week, just because of the lower volume and Monday being a holiday. So even though I only took 2 trades this week, I made a total of around $30,000. So that just goes to show that you don't have to trade every day, and you don't have to take multiple trades to make a good profit as a day trader. So I'll go through both of those trades and how they are high probability setups and what I waited for before I took those trades as well. All that being said, let's go ahead and get started and review these trades. So I do just want to say that we did trade live every day this week in the Discord. I called Tesla live, and I also called SPX as well. After we got off of voice, the market ended up moving a little later. And here is my TRADERSYNC. So you can see for the week of December 25th to the 29th here, I took those 2 trades, just Tesla and SPX. This trade was actually a mistake, so I accidentally entered calls when I wanted to enter puts, so just ignore this. But the SPX trade, I made around $26,000, and then the Tesla trade around $3,200 on Tesla. So I'll go through both of these with you guys and show you exactly what I did. So let's start with Tesla. So I took Tesla on December 27th, and I took calls on Tesla. And if we go ahead, I always have a plan with all of my days. So if we go ahead and look at Tesla on the 27th and what my plan was, so they had news revamping their Model Y vehicle. So I was watching Tesla calls above 260, and I usually have a plan every morning to whichever tickers that I'm watching. I always look at the ticker and then decide where I'm going to enter for calls and where I'm going to enter for puts. And on Tesla, it was going to be calls above 260 and then puts below 256. Those were the levels that I was watching on Tesla. Obviously, this is also in combination with what futures are doing. So I always wait for futures. They are the leading indicator, and then I take the play. So if we go ahead and look at Tesla on the 27th here it is. So Tesla did break 260 really close to open. So this was a little closer to open than I usually take my trades. So if we go ahead and look at my TRADERSYNC, I entered Tesla calls at 9:35. So let's go ahead and see what it was doing at 9:35. So like I said, my initial entry point was above 260 on Tesla. So here you can see at 9:34, Tesla ended up breaking the 260 level. So I entered on this 2-minute candle at 9:35 once I started to see volume push on Tesla. At the same time, at 9:35, this 5-minute candle on NASDAQ futures was above its VWAP. So that's what I usually look for on NASDAQ and ES, for them to trade above their VWAP levels and potentially above the 9 EMA as well. ES was also above its VWAP level and pushing, so I was comfortable entering Tesla as both futures were pushing. Now, we didn't have significant bullish momentum to the upside on this day, but overall I knew that Tesla had a catalyst. So whenever a ticker has a catalyst, sometimes you don't need too much movement from futures. As long as NASDAQ is giving you the move and they're in sync with one another, the ticker will usually move, especially if it has catalyst, because it's already, especially if it has a catalyst, because it already has the volume to make the move. So here we go. I entered Tesla at 9:35. My targets on this play were 262 and 263, which you can see it pulled up to 262 clearly, pulled back to the 9 EMA, and then went into the 263 level on Tesla. I scaled out some of my position at 9:41. So on this candle here, this 2-minute candle, as it approached the 262 level on Tesla. On BOOKMAP, we did see some sellers sitting at 262 on Tesla and 262.50, which is why I scaled out as it was approaching the 262 level first. Second exit on Tesla was at the 944 exit here. You can see that it pushed past the 262 level, so I was comfortable exiting here as well. At this point, I was out about 70% of my position on Tesla and only holding 30% of my position into the 263 level. My third exit on Tesla was at 953. Once this candle pushed pushed into 263 as well. At this point, I only had 10% left, which was my runners. Ended up exiting my runners on Tesla at 10:04. Once it cleared the 263 level here, it touched both of my profit targets perfectly, so I was comfortable exiting my entire position. So when I'm scalping, I always hold to my first two profit targets and then hold runners if the stock continues to move. I hadn't traded Tesla in a while, so I was comfortable exiting my entire position at my second profit target and continuously scaling out as the stock made the move up. At the same time, futures were really not giving up the move. So if you look at here, Tesla started to make the move up into around almost 10 a.m. And you can see that around 10 a.m. here, NASDAQ started to wick. There was a lot of wicking going on in the morning on NASDAQ and ES futures, which just signifies that there is sellers sitting there. There are sellers present. So I wasn't extremely comfortable with holding this position longer than my profit targets. The reason Tesla ended up making the move is, like I said, whenever a ticker has a catalyst behind it, it usually is able to gain the momentum and the volume that it needs to be able to make the move, even if futures don't give you a significant move. Now, the good thing about this and why I really entered this trade is because both futures were above their VWAP levels, but like I said, I continuously scaled out on this trade just because NASDAQ futures was extremely wicky on the 5-minute. We didn't have clean direction or clear direction from ES and NASDAQ. And at the same time, we were approaching 10 a.m. So usually around 10 a.m., you start to see market direction either continue in the way that it's going. If it's ranging, you'll find direction, or it tends to reverse. So a lot can happen right at 10 a.m., especially if we have news, any economic data that's coming out. So usually if I hold a trade or if I enter a trade prior to 10 a.m., I like to exit that trade before 10 a.m. hits, or I'll just wait until 10 a.m. to take any trades. So this trade, I wanted to exit the trade before 10 a.m. I held it until 10:04 here as it touched my second profit target, but most of my position, I was out before 10 a.m., exiting at the 9:52 candle, and then the 10:04 candle was only my runners at that point. And it's because I saw NASDAQ rejecting here at the 10 a.m. candle, so I was comfortable exiting the rest of my position on Tesla as well. Right, so the next play that I'm going to go through is the SPX play that I took. So if we go ahead and look at SPX, this play I took on 12/29. So this was on Friday. And if we look at SPX overall in the morning, we can see that SPX was ranging. There was really no movement here. And if we go ahead and look at both futures, futures really didn't have any movement as well. Although both futures were, ES futures was trading below its VWAP and it was holding that VWAP all throughout the morning. It wasn't able to clear VWAP. Now, if we go ahead and look at the NASDAQ was a bit weaker than ES. In comparison to ES, you can see ES was kind of just holding here. NASDAQ did get a little bit of a move down right at open and around the first hour of market open. However, ES futures was just holding, which is why SPX was also ranging. The tech sector really didn't move much, even though the NASDAQ was pulling down. We didn't get much movement in the first hour from pretty much any ticker. So at this point, I was about to call it a day because it was around 10:30, and usually if we don't see a move around 10:30, kind of walk away and come back in the afternoon time to see if we see any other significant movements. So in this specific play, you can see overall market was holding. Now I was watching SPX puts below 47.80. It did create a level of support at 47.83, but I always take the next significant level of support or resistance when a stock creates an intraday level, especially if it's SPX, because what happens is it tends to hold at that next significant level. And if you see here, that's exactly what SPX did. We ended up getting the move down here and it held around the 47.80 level, which is a good sign before continuing down. Now I entered SPX puts at 10:41. So you can see here at 10:41, let me just zoom in. At 10:41, SPX broke the 47.80 level. And if we look at ES futures here, it was already rejecting its VWAP and pulling away from both of its EMAs. So at 10:40 here, clean candle below its 9 EMA and rejection of the VWAP. We also got a lot of volume around the 10:40 and 10:45 candle on ES futures. So I was waiting for ES futures to clear the 48.25 level, as we saw BOOKMAP had buyers sitting at that level. So I wanted to see ES clear that level, and at 10:40 ended up breaking through that level, and it was slowly filling those orders on BOOKMAP at that 48.25 level into the 48.23 level. So I was comfortable entering SPX puts. So when I entered SPX, my targets to the downside were 47.75, 47.70, and then 47.60 was my final target On SPX to the downside, if you can see here, clean move down to 47.70. I scaled out some of my position at 10.46, scaled out pretty much most of my position. I was at about 70% as it broke through the 47.75 and it was approaching my second profit target at 47.70. I was comfortable exiting about 70% of my position. I only held 30%, and that 30% I had a stop of 47.75. Now if you see here, we get a clean move down here, we get a clean move on ES futures, a clean retest. So on this specific play, it retested here, retested the 9 EMA on futures, retested the 9 EMA, and held below my stop of 47.75 on SPX. We ended up getting the retest. This was another play that you could have taken on SPX if you didn't catch the first one. As it broke 47.70, I exited another 20% at 11.13, and then I exited the last 10% that I had on this play at 11.16 as it approached my last and final profit target. So like I said, I was out 70% here. The premium was up about $5 at this point, so it was up about 50%. And then as it approached my second and third profit targets, it was well over 100% on this SPX play. Ended up exiting, like I said, 20% here, and the rest of that 10%, which was my runners, at the 11.16 level as it was approaching 47.60. So this was a really clean sell. We got the move off of futures. The only thing is NASDAQ was pulling back at 10.40. However, it did make a little bit of a move up, wasn't able to hold fully above its VWAP, and then came back down. So we didn't have a significant sell on the NASDAQ, but overall ES futures gave us the move. So I was comfortable taking this play on SPX. I also really like when the market within the first half an hour to an hour ranges. When the market ranges like this, you get clear levels of support and resistance, intraday levels of support and resistance, where you can see clearly where buyers are holding or where sellers are holding. And those are really significant levels to potentially be able to take a scalp on it. Also, if we go ahead and take a look at BOOKMAP, this was a screenshot that I took on ES futures after I exited most of my SPX. You can see that ES futures was also approaching the 4,800 level, which is why I exited the rest of my SPX where I did, because ES was approaching a significant level of support at 4,800, and you can see how many buyers were sitting at that level. And then when we first cleared, you can see here we cleared this 48.24 level on ES futures. We got this the fill on those orders here, and then we got the clean sell down, significant selling pressure on ES futures, really no buying pressure at all here on BOOKMAP until we got to around the 48.15 level, and that is when we got that pullback, which is why I exited 70% of my position. But when we got that pullback, you can see on BOOKMAP sellers were still pretty heavy here. We just had a little bit of buying pressure here at around the 48.15 level. Once those orders filled here, we ended up getting another move down on ES futures and really the 4,800 level. It was a clean sell down from the 48.15 into the 4,800 level on ES futures, which is why SPX sold from the 47.70 into the 46.760 level so clean. You can see that there was really no pullback because the selling pressure was so heavy on BOOKMAP. This was a clean play to take too. All right, guys, so that's it for this video. Hopefully these trade reviews are also as helpful as the live trades. I will post more of those as well. And I hope that everyone has a happy and healthy new year. And I will see you guys next year. Bye.